I think February officially confirmed that my comfort genre has switched from romance to fantasy. I think the last 6 months have definitely shown that. Hi, I'm Emery. I mostly read fantasy and romance books, but I do throw in a few different genres here and there. I am also writing my own fantasy series, so I can definitely be picky about what I like and what I don't like. My goal for this month was ultimately to read more than I did last month, which I did read, and I almost doubled it by reading 15 books this month, when last month I read 8 books.
For my February Wrapped, I ended up reading 15 books, which added up to 5,415 pages. And then when we split that into genres, I read 9 fantasy books, 3 romance books, 2 classics, and 1 horror.
I had 3 books that really stood out to me this month. One of them was a reread, which, you guessed it, I reread my favorite book, which is Fourth Wing. This book is a 6-star book for me. I know some people don't like it, but I absolutely love this book. Like, I love the banter, I love the characters, I love just like the fantasy world in general and just like everything that's like integrated into it. And I'm a huge fan of dragons, hence the 3 dragon tattoos that I have. But this book is so good. I rate it 6 stars. I genuinely love it. If you love romantasy, read this book. And a lot of people say it's overhyped, but for good reasons, and I will stand by that. I'm not going to go too much into depth about this book because I will probably make a video about the Fourth Wing series at some point, so I don't feel like it's necessary. I feel like it's out there enough that you probably don't want to hear a repeat of everything that other people say. The second book that stood out to me was actually a romance book, and I'm a big fan of Stephanie Archer, from her artwork to her books in general. I love a good hockey romance, and she just released a new book called The Wild Card. I loved this book. I thought it was really interesting. I will say the only thing was it got a bit slow at the end, not like in a bad way, but I'm someone that like kind of likes to be like, I like to be like engaged, and to me I'm like, you don't need to make this longer if it's not necessary. But besides that, I literally loved this book. It was so good. She had another banger. It's the 5th one in this like interconnected standalone series. All right, my rating for this book was 4.25. Again, I brought it down just because, I don't know, just my opinion. I don't really have a big explanation. I thought it was really good, and I 100% would recommend it. And the third book that made it into my top 3 was actually not the 3rd highest rating, but like overall my opinion like of the book was Quicksilver. I thought it was like really entertaining. So I rated this book a 4 stars, and the reason why I brought it down is I genuinely cannot stand when they have bad names. So that brought it down, because what is Kingfisher? I'm definitely used to it now, but I'm not like, that name was so weird. I also felt they kind of got together a little too soon, considering it was marketed as an enemies to lovers book. I'd say it's more like they are definitely not enemies, but I think it's more like they shouldn't be together originally, but then it makes sense. And then some of it I found like a little cringy, so that's what brought it down. But just like overall, like the fan base and just like the vibe of the book was really entertaining to me. So I did really like that, and I'm a big fan of Fated Mates. I always find that interesting. So I would recommend this book. I haven't read the second one, but I do have it. It's on my March TBR. But honestly, like it wasn't bad, and it like just made it up there specifically for the fact of I liked the vibe of the book. To talk about my 2 least favorite books I read this month. Number 1, Credence. I rated this so low. Like, I don't think I've rated a book this low in so long. I rated this book a 2.25 stars. Hear me out. The beginning was okay, but I felt like it was very cliche. I felt like it was very predictable, which I get some people probably just wanted to read it for the smut. It's one of the books that's on my physical TBR that I just kind of wanted to get over with and read. Because I'm someone that like, I cannot DNF a book. If I DNF a book, it's because I'm going to get to it later. Like, I have to read a book. So I knew that this one was weird, so I'm like, I'm going to get this one like out of the way. It was predictable. It was cringy. It was so dragged on. Like, why did we need the last 150 pages? And I personally am someone that's not a fan of like multiple lovers. Like, why did you have 3 lovers who were not related to you, but your family? Like, it was not my taste, because It was so boring. Like, they literally were, like, stuck in a cabin, and then we're just, like, all, like, she was just switching up between which person she was with. And I also find it, like, I'm all for age gap. Don't get me wrong. I love age gap. But she was, like, 17, and this older man was, like, preying on her, which I know Penelope Douglas's books are, like, hit or miss. Like, I liked Birthday Girl, but I did not like Credence. Like, I thought it was going to be a little more interesting. It was the last 150 pages, I was so bored. I was like, I can't do this. Also, this one might be a not as well-known book, but I read a book called White Nights, and it's kind of more of, like, it's not a classic per se. I think it taught a valuable lesson, but it wasn't my favorite. I did not enjoy reading it, but I think I got a good lesson out of it, if that makes sense. I ended up rating it 3 stars. I took off a whole star because I just genuinely didn't enjoy reading it. And then also didn't stick out to me. And it also was difficult to read because I personally am, like, a fan when someone writes, when they separate dialogue and they put, like, 2 quotation marks. Like, I don't like it when they're all blended into gigantic paragraphs. It makes it hard to read. And then that also makes it more difficult in a sense for reading it and less enjoyable. So I didn't like that. So if that's something that bothers you, then don't read it. It was more of, like, a sad story. It was about, like, a guy who felt like he was, like, pretty unlovable, and he met this woman, and they continued to meet every night, and they told each other, like, their stories about their lives, and she said how she, like, once had a past lover, and then he, like, disappeared and was supposed to come back, and he hasn't come back, and she's really sad about it, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and he was, like, falling in love with her throughout these days. And then on one of the days, he was like, okay, I'm in love with you. And she's like, yeah, I think I could love you too. And then her past lover showed up and then stole her away from him. So, like, that's, like, what happened. And it was more of a short story. It was one that I'd started in 2025, so I kind of just wanted to finish it. But, I don't know. It didn't do anything for me, if that makes sense. I think it was, like, a good lesson, but, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. The second book I read this month was a classic. I reread Little Women. When I read them, I was so young, I wasn't able to, like, comprehend what I was reading, so I felt like I wanted a refresher. So I did reread Little Women. I loved it. It was so interesting to, like, get a refresher on what the book is like. So I rated that one a 4.5 stars. It's such a classic. I love the story. Again, it's a very popular book that I feel like I don't even need to go into the depth to explain. 5 years ago, I started this book because I found out that it was a book and not just a TV show. And then I lent it to someone before I finished it, and they never gave it back. So I finally bought it again and started rereading it in, like, December, but I didn't finish it, so I finished it this month, and it was The Haunting of Hill House. This is where I put the book. This is where I put the show. They are completely different stories. If you've seen The Haunting of Hill House and you want to read the book because you want to, like, read it, oh, I want to read the story as, like, a book. It's not the same thing at all. It's completely different, and I honestly wasn't the biggest fan. I rated it a 3.75. I liked the show better. I thought that the book was very dragged on. There was, like, extra parts that just didn't make sense. It was still good. It did give me the kind of, like, creepy part, but it was not so much as, like, a horror movie rather than just, like, explaining people and diving into almost mental illness. So it was, like, a completely different vibe. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but it wasn't bad, if that makes sense. It just was not the same as the TV show, and I went into it expecting that, and that's not what I got. I also started on the Zodiac Academy series last month, and I read 1.5 of the books this month. I did read the 4th Zodiac Academy book, Shadow Princess, and this was my favorite out of all of them so far. You can really tell how the author has, like, improved in their writing skills, like, as the series goes on, which I think is really helpful. Like, I totally recommend this series if you love building relationships with the characters you read about, because I feel really connected to them now, and, like, I know the characters, so it's so interesting to continue to watch, like, what's happening in the storyline. And I feel like the plot, like, doesn't get dragged out much. I feel like the pacing's good. I like the different POVs. I think that, like, that kind of makes it interesting. I thought it was really good. I actually rated it a 4.2. I want to preface it by saying that I rank books with a mix of how much I enjoyed it and how good the writing is. So I really enjoyed reading this, which is what brought the rating up so high. I also saw a book talk recommendation to read Feathers So Vicious, so I did read that one. I don't like the people becoming multiple ravens. It, like, weirds me out. Like, why are you splitting into 5? Like, that bothered me. I was like, no. I liked how the book ended. I liked with the plot twist, and I've started the second book. It's my current read right now. I rated this one a 3.8, and you're probably like, why is it so low? It's lower because I'm all for a love triangle, but I can't get behind the actual like relationship with multiple people, and that's like what I noticed was starting to kind of happen, and it was bothering me. And then some of it was like a little cringe and a little like gross for my liking. I also put it down a little bit because it didn't necessarily stand out to me. I want more layers to a fantasy world, and I don't feel like there was that. Like, I love long fantasy series because I love when there's layers, but I don't feel like there was like so much to kind of like be curious about. So also what is brought down. But I will say, I think the ending of the book was a good way to plot twist and kind of get the reader to want to read the next book. And I also found it interesting. Like, I had fun reading it, and I was like, it was a page turner. Like, I finished it all in one go, but like on the airplane. It's not like my top tier fantasy book. I did also reread my own book, which go read it. I'm telling you guys, like, I have such good plans for my series, and the first book is literally just like a dipping your toes into the water. Like, and it's also free on Kindle Unlimited, so if you have Kindle Unlimited, go read it. It's a shorter book too, so you don't even have to worry about like full-on commitment. I love it. If you love mermaids, if you love dragons, if you love elemental powers, morally gray men, royalty, like, go read it. I'm telling you, world building, deep fantasy, read it. For another classic that I read Pride and Prejudice. I rated this one a 4.5. I love Pride and Prejudice so much. Again, another book I read a long time ago that I wanted to refresh my brain on, which is kind of what I'm trying to do this year, is read at least one classic a month. Again, well talked about. I don't feel like I need to go into depth about Pride and Prejudice, but really entertaining. So for February, because it's like the month of love, my Kindle did suggest to me like a lot of romance books. So I picked up one collection because I felt like it would be like entertaining to read. Hot for Slayer. I actually ended up rating this one a 3.5. I don't know. It just like wasn't my fave. It's definitely my least favorite out of all of her books. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But don't get me wrong, she is an amazing writer and I love her. Then I read one called Falling by Christina Lauren, which is a very well-known author. I love her too. I rated this one higher. I rated this one a 4 stars. I liked that there was almost like more story than like 1 or 2 scenes. That was entertaining to me. It's really good for a short story. I mainly rated this one based off of how I would rank it as a short story. For a short story, very good. Then I read this one called Beautiful Nightmare, and this one didn't bother me per se, but I couldn't get behind the like alien thing. It gives like, okay, I say this as if I don't read like fantasy books about like literal people turning into like beasts like Avatar, but this one, I don't know, it was something about it, like it was just giving too furry. It was just kind of weird. Like, I was like, why does this guy want to get his freak on with a random alien that's just showed up in his room? So that kind of was like a little odd to me. That one was called Beautiful Nightmares by Kate Roberts. And then the last one, not in this collection, but that I read this month, was Spicy Little Curses, and that was by J.T. Gessner. I found this one the best out of all of them so far. So when I read it, it felt like it was a normal length book because of how much details were put into the like 150 pages roughly around there that there are. Considering it's 100 pages, I was like, that's a lot of like good details, and I don't feel like anything that was put in there was like unnecessary. It kept me engaged and I was entertained. I liked the MMC. It's a short story, so you can only give so much, you know. Okay, so for my reading goals for next month, I'm trying to knock off 10 books off of my physical TBR. So I will be doing that, mainly fantasy with a mix of romance reads. I also have a goal to finish the Zodiac Academy series, or at least the first 9 books. That's my little wrap up. I hope you enjoyed. I have to go to class, so I'm a bit quick up on time here. We don't have much time. Thank you for watching. If you want to see more fantasy content, writing content, book content, subscribe for more and I will provide.